Budweiser Clydes, but that's all right. They're still big and strong and weigh in at nearly a ton apiece. I'll be talking a little bit with Clem and Corral throughout the tour. My name's Till. I'll be your driver and your narrator. I'd like you just to sit back and relax, hear my cleverly disguised time machine as I take you 132 years into the past, back when Tombstone was still a mining town. Carl, Clem, step up. Most of the buildings here on historic Allen Street are original buildings from the early 1880s. And when they were first built, many were built as 2- and 3-story buildings. However, after the major fires of 1881 and 1882 when these buildings burned down, when they were rebuilt, most did not rebuild the second and third floors. Just ahead on our right side is Shady Lady and Arlene Southwest Trading Company. This was a 2-story building. On the first level was Brown's Cafe, on the corner was Hatford's Liquor Store. On the second level was Brown's Hotel. This was known as Hatford's Corner. That's here where the Earps met up with Doc Holliday on their walk to the gunfight at the OK Corral. They made a right turn here on 4th Street, crossed one block to Fremont Street and they turned left, then went right past the back side of the OK Corral. Off to our right, on the far right corner, is Schieffelin Hall. That was built in 1881 as a Mason's Lodge and meeting place and a theater. Today it's the oldest and largest multi-story adobe church in the Southwest. Here on our right, the old town photo. That was the Can-Can restaurant in the 1880s, and it was owned and operated by a wealthy Chinese man by the name of Kwang Ki. They say Kwang Ki made the finest Chinese cuisine you could get in the Southwest, and the folks who visit his restaurant from all over the country. Kwang Ki was a very popular fellow, and when he died, over 3,000 people attended his funeral. That was the largest funeral in the history of Tombstone. Kwang Ki is buried on Blue Hill today. Now to our right is the world famous OK Corral. This is where they say that gunfight took place among the Earps and Doc Holliday against the Clantons and the Flowers on October 26, 1881 at about 2:30 in the afternoon. Well, that gunfight did not take place inside the OK Corral. If you look again to the right, on the far side of the park, you'll see a cement block wall. On the other side of that wall was an alley which led to Fremont Street. That's where the gunfight took place. The Clantons and the Flowers were standing in that alley as the Earps and Doc Holliday were walking down Fremont Street. As they approached the alley, it didn't take long for that gunfight to get started. In less than 30 seconds, 30 shots were fired, and 3 men were left dead. Billy Clanton and Tom and Frank McLaury. There were also 3 men wounded in that gunfight. Virgil Earp was shot in the leg, Morgan Earp was shot through the shoulder. Doc Holliday suffered a grazing wound to the head. Only Wyatt Earp was left standing without a single scratch. On our left side you'll see a red building, and today that's the Blue Eye Wood. In the 1880s, it was the home of China Mary. I'll tell you a little bit about her in just a moment. They say the population here in Tombstone during its heyday was 6,000 people. That census was taken among registered voters, which were white males ages 21 and older. When you consider all the women, children, and minorities here at the time, the actual population is closer to 15 to 20,000. Of those 15 to 20,000, there were 600 documented Chinese. They lived in a part of Tombstone called Chinatown, or Hot Town, which we're traveling through right now. On both sides of the coast in the next 2 blocks was Chinatown. China Mary has complete control of the Chinese labor force and the opium trade. And they say if you were Chinese and wanted to get a job here in Tombstone, if you didn't go through China Mary for that job, you weren't going to work in this town at all. China Mary's buried on Blue Hill, right next to her good friend, Wang Fu. Out the right side of the coast, way out there is a mountain range. Those are the Dragoon Mountains. That's where that famous Apache chief, everyone Cochise, held his stronghold against the United States cavalry for over 7.5 years. Legend has it that Cochise surrendered to the U.S. cavalry and was taken to Fort Huachuca as a prisoner. After he thought about that a little while, I suppose Cochise decided surrender wasn't a very good idea. Less than 2 days later, he escaped from Fort Huachuca and fled to Mexico. Eventually, Cochise returned to the Arizona Territory into the Chiricahua Mountains. He later came back to the Dragoon Mountains where he died of natural causes. His body was buried in a secret location somewhere near his stronghold. For many years, people have been looking for Cochise's grave. So far, no one's found it, and quite honestly, I don't believe anyone ever will. The Earp brothers did not come to Tombstone to be lawmen. They came to get rich from that silver being dug out of the hills, just like everyone else. Out the right side of the coach, in the left corner where that building stands, for 118 years was the site of Virgil Pond. Diagonally across Fremont Street to the right side was the home of Wyatt Earp. Wyatt Earp's home's an art gallery today. Unfortunately, on June 6, 1998, a couple of kids started playing with matches outside Virgil's home. They set the building on fire and it burned to the ground in about 20 minutes. Like Doc Holliday never owned a home here in Tombstone. He spent his time in the saloons, boarding houses, and even the brothels from time to time. Coming up on our left side is the home of Sheriff, Texas John Slaughter. Texas John was the roughest, toughest lawman in all southeast Arizona. When he went after an outlaw, he'd just shoot that outlaw and bring back his horse, hat, boots, and guns. John Slaughter wasn't a very large man. He stood 5'4", weighed 140 pounds, and wore size 5 boots. However, the outlaws here in Cochise County feared Texas John Slaughter, even that Apache warrior by name Geronimo. Called him that wicked little gringo. That's all, climb, step up. We're going to go left on the Toughnut Street, and I'll tell you about Toughnut Street later in the tour. And as the coach straightens out, on our right side, you'll see a white building. This is the home of Dr. George Goodfellow. There's a chain runs across town about the Goodfellow's house. So I'm getting a look at it and see how badly some of those rooms will run. I'll tell you what the chain is used for in just a little bit. Dr. Goodfellow was the doctor that patched up Virgil and Lawmen in South Carolina and tended to Morgan when he shot through the back. On our left side is Greenville. That was transported here from Fort Huachuca many years ago. In the 1890s, it was a barracks for Buffalo soldiers. Tombstone has over 300 miles of mining shafts and tunnels going underneath it. So no matter where you go, you'll probably on top of one of them. When they were mining silver here, there wasn't enough water to process the silver ore. It was transported about 8.5 miles to our right side to the San Pedro River and the Little County Forest. And it was transported by 20 mule teams. Each team is pulling 3 wagons loaded with ore. The chain on the front of Dr. Goodfellow's house is called a drag chain. It was used when it was tied all together. As the wagons started down a hill, the chain would gather up some slack and start dragging on the ground. That's why it's got to be called a drag chain, and that's how the links in the chain got more to where they are. It took 7 men to drive the 20 mule teams, and each of those wagons was loaded with 6 to 8 tons of silver. Coming up on our right side, just outside of Kingston, a sense, we will stump on the telegraph pole. It's only about 8 or 10 inches tall right now, but in 1884, that telegraph pole was a whole lot taller than it is today. I'd like you to keep that pole in mind as I tell you a story about an outlaw by the name of John Heath. John Heath was in Bisbee one day when he noticed a general store and was taking in a lot of cash. He rode back to Tombstone, gathered up 5 of his buddies, and sent them back to Bisbee to rob that store. In the process of robbing the store, they shot and killed everyone in the building, including a pregnant woman who lived here in Tombstone. That came to be known as the Bisbee Massacre. The law caught up with John Heath and his 5 buddies and brought him back to Tombstone to stand trial. On March 28, 1884, they hung those 5 men behind the brick wall on the right-hand side. As for John Heath, even though he was the mastermind behind all that, he wasn't present during the robbery in the car. They sentenced him to life in prison. The folks of Tombstone and Bisbee apparently didn't think that was justice enough for John Heath, because they gathered up outside the courthouse here and they formed a mob. That mob went into the courthouse, overpowered the jailer, and dragged John Heath out the front door, took him all the way down the street to that telegraph pole in the corner, and they strung him up from it. Now, if you go into the courthouse, and I recommend you check this place out, you'll see a photograph of John Heath hanging from that telegraph pole, and a copy of the death certificate filled out and signed by Dr. Goodfellow. On that death certificate, Dr. Goodfellow states that John Heath came to his death from emphysema, which might have been caused by strangulation. And Dr. Goodfellow had an odd sense of humor like that. There was another death certificate he filled out and signed for an unidentified man. On that one, he said the corpse was rich in lead. However, it's punctured too badly to hold whiskey. On the left side's the brown building. That was the home of Alan English. Alan English is a prominent lawyer here in Tombstone, 1880, and Toughnut Street had a lot of lawyers in it back then. Toughnut Street got its name. Second judge of civil commission man in Tombstone. That was the Toughnut mine, and that's how the street got its name. Toughnut Street had over 130 saloons going at one time. You might wonder how they got that many saloons on this little street. It really wasn't very hard at all. They just set up a couple empty whiskey barrels, put a board on top of them, and then started pouring shots of whiskey. Well, they called that a saloon. Toughnut Street had a lot of brothels on it too in the 1880s, but for that, they just put up a tent. Toughnut Street got the nickname Rotten Row. That had nothing at all to do with the saloons or the brothels. That had to do with all the lawyers here on Toughnut Street. On the right side, the yellow building, and today it's the Tombstone Library. In the old 1900s, that was the train depot here in Tombstone. They didn't get a train in 1903. By 1958, they discontinued train service here. In 1961, they tore up the track and sold it to Mexico. Now on our right, you see an open sign between two doors. The door on the left leads to the world's largest rose bush. That rose bush was put here from Scotland in 1885 to a young bride-to-be. That young lady planted the rose bush in her garden, and it grew to be the world's largest. It's in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's 6 feet across at the base, stands about 10 feet tall, and covers nearly 9,000 square feet. The rose bush blooms in April, and it blooms a white rose. Folks around here call that rose bush Tombstone's Shady Lady, because it is so large and covers so much area. Now step up. On our left side is the Tombstone Visitors Information Center. In 1879, when it first built, it opened as a general store. The general store was owned and operated by the mining company because they wanted to make certain their employees had access to all the supplies they might need to survive the harsh Arizona desert environment. Most of those days, that building served as a bank, a hardware store, and a hat store. Coming up on our left side is a vacant lot and Superstitious Shoes gift shop. That was the site of the Cosmopolitan Hotel. After the Earp and Doc Holliday were held under house arrest during the inquest in the gunfight at Corral. They were found not responsible for that incident, and they were set free. The Cosmopolitan burned down during the fire of 1882 and was never rebuilt. Just ahead on our right side is Signal State Saloon. That was the Grand Hotel here in Tombstone, and it was a 3-story luxury hotel. On our left is the Red Buffalo Trading Company. That was Campbell and Hack Saloon and Billiards, and that's where Morgan was murdered the night of March 18, 1882. As you go through the front door of that building and look up on the ceiling on the right-hand side, you'll see a skylight. Beneath that skylight, the replica the pool table where Morgan was shooting pool with Bob Hatch, who was one of the proprietors of that establishment, and an outlaw ambushed him from the back door and shot him through the back. It's believed that outlaw was Frank Stillwell. Here on our left is the famous Crystal Palace Saloon. In 1879, when that was first built, it opened as the Golden Eagle Blue. But after the second major fire, in 1882 when the building burned down, it was rebuilt later on that year and opened as the Crystal Palace. Now on our left is what was the Oriental Saloon. That's where the Earp got control of the gambling table. On our right side is the Longhorn Restaurant and the Branding Iron. That was the Buck of the Blood Saloon, and they say a man was killed in there every day for 3.5 years. I'd like you to keep those last 3 buildings in mind as I tell you a story about a lawman, a Tombstone marshal by the name of Virgil X. Virgil was leaving the Oriental Saloon late the night of December 28, 1881, and was crossing the street in the direction of the Crystal Palace. He got about 4 feet from the boardwalk when 5 shots came from the second floor of the Buck of the Blood Saloon. That was still under construction at the time. One of those shots hit Virgil in the left arm, shattered a bone and left him crippled in that arm. Of course, he didn't stay in Tombstone very long after that incident. He went to California. And despite the loss of use of that arm, again he became a lawman. Virgil died at the age of 62 from pneumonia. Wyatt, after his brothers were shot up, didn't hang around Tombstone very long either. He also ended up in California, where he died at the age of 80 of natural causes. About Holiday, after he left Tombstone, he wound up in Glenwood Springs, Colorado, where he died in a hotel room at the age of 36 from tuberculosis. Now I'd like to tell you about a fellow by the name of Edward Long Schieffelin. Ed Schieffelin was a prospector and a scout for the U.S. Army Station Fort Huachuca. He was going out prospecting one day, and one of his army buddies said, "Hey, you gotta be crazy. The only thing you'll find in those hills is goose flats and hostile Apache Indians, and the only stone you'll never find will be your own tombstone." Perhaps some of that came true. In 1877, Ed Schieffelin discovered over $85 million in silver over in those hills on the left-hand side. In 1879, they named the village of Tombstone, which was named after his first mining claim. Just ahead on our left side is the famous Third Church Pyramid. That's one of the most original buildings in Tombstone and still contains its original furnishings and shooting side. If you haven't been in there yet, I recommend you check that place out. The folks in there will point out a whole bunch of boreholes where the cowboys got a little rowdy and shot the place up. It also houses the Black Maria, which is the horse they used to take the book to the hill. Then there's the original poker table where the longest poker game in history took place. That game lasted almost 8.5 years. A Stagecoach Ride from here to Benson will take 5 hours. It takes 17 hours to Tucson and 29 hours to Phoenix. The round trip to Benson or Bisbee will cost $12.50. Coming up on our right side is the Silver Hills Trading Company. That was the arcade saloon in the site of the first major fire in 1881. That fire was caused by a sour barrel of whiskey. 2 bartenders rolled that whiskey barrel out the front door to inspect the level of its contents before it was shipped back to the distributor. One of those bartenders had a lit cigar in his mouth. He dropped the cigar in the whiskey barrel. The barrel exploded and the fire was on. 66 buildings burned down before that fire went on. So right behind the Crystal Palace is the Tombstone Epitaph. December 1879, a man by the name of John Heath came to Tombstone. When he first arrived, he said every tombstone must have an epitaph. May 1st, 1880, he founded the Tombstone Epitaph, which for many years was a daily newspaper. Today it's a weekly publication, you can still get a copy of that newspaper. John Clem was Tombstone's first mayor, and mayor at the time of the gunfight at Corral. Coming up on our left again is Big Nose Kate Saloon. Big Nose Kate was Doc Holliday's girlfriend. They didn't call her Big Nose Kate because she had a big nose. They called her that because she couldn't keep her nose in her own business. Tombstone got the nickname the town too tough to die by surviving 2 major fires, an earthquake in 1887, and a flooding in Silver Mine. I hope you enjoyed that tour with us today. Paul, now step up. Get on up there. Please watch your head and step as you exit the coach.